Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you all for joining us here this morning for a data exchange machine monitoring webinar. This is going to be the last one that we do this year, and we do this every year where we have a year-end update review where I go over all of the different data exchange releases and the new updated features that transpired in that given year. So first up, I'd like to go over the order of events for this morning's webinar, starting with how often is data exchange updated, and then we will be discussing where to find out about data exchange updates and learn about data exchange itself, how Scytec informs and updates users on our data exchange releases. And then the majority of this webinar will consist of the most recent data exchange release, which includes the RTV Designer update, as well as the other updates that released in 2025. We had another big one in March of earlier this year. And then I will end this webinar by detailing some of the smaller improvements that transpired in some of the more kind of smaller data exchange releases as well. So, how are data exchange end users notified about the improvements in data exchange? So data exchange is updated almost quarterly with user requested features, improvements, and more. And I'd also kind of like to discuss here very quickly, what is the future of data exchange for those of you that are kind of newer to the machine monitoring platform. The future of data exchange sees more of the features that were typically found in the desktop application making their appearance in data display, which is our mobile and browser-based machine monitoring reporting tool. Data display will be the way forward for data exchange. There is also going to be some more additions to the direct protocols, which I will be discussing later on in this webinar for machine brands, and improvements to CNC Machine Connect, which is the integration between data exchange and Vericut. So when something is added to data display that was traditionally found in the Windows desktop application, it will then be removed from the desktop application, and then from then on forward, you can find it solely in data display. And a good example of this is the saved and scheduled reports, which I'm going to be discussing later on, were removed from the Windows desktop application earlier this year, and then, as I mentioned, can now only be found in data display. Now, for those of you that have something that you would like to see added or improved to data exchange, definitely reach out to Scytec. A lot of these updates are from user requested features that eventually then make their way into data exchange itself. And I will have that email that we would like you to kind of report that stuff on at the end of this webinar. So where you can find out about all of the stuff that is in a data exchange update can be found at our Scytec University website, which can be found at dxhelp.scytec.com, where you can find a list of the updated features in that release, which you can see in that image there over on the right. You can see an arrow pointing to where it says release notes. That'll go through a detailed description of everything that was in that data exchange update. And in general, Scytec University is a great tool for all things data exchange, including tutorial videos, FAQs, and as well as breakdowns for how data exchange can be applied to specific employment levels. So for this recent release that came out on the 5th of November earlier this year, I've taken a screenshot of some of the stuff that was in there to kind of show you what this looks like at the Scytec University website, where you can see at the very top the version that was when it was released. And then next to that underneath, we can see there's these blue little hyperlinks at the far side. If you click on that more information, that's going to give you an in-depth tutorial on some of the biggest features that were released. So two of the big ones in this update that I'm going to be discussing here next was we added the data display RTV Designer, taking that from the Windows desktop application. And then also now the data exchange application downloads are now able to be downloaded within data display as well. So how are end users notified for data exchange updates? End users will receive an email, which you can see on that far right-hand side. When an update goes out, I email everybody telling them that there's been an update, and then where they can access the information at the Scytec University website. On the far left-hand side, you can also see at the top of that image on our main Scytec.com website, we have a green little bar notifying users that there's going to be an update on a specific day. And if you click the Tell Me More button, you will then be taken to a blog-style description of everything that can be found in that release. So the most recent update is going to be next up on our discussion here for this webinar. So as I mentioned earlier, the RTV Designer is now found in Data Display. But for those of you that are new to DataXchange, I'd like to first go over what is the RTV. And the DataXchange RTV real-time dashboard is a useful tool that allows DataXchange end users to create their own manufacturing dashboards from their collected machine data that is indicative of their shop floor issues. We have a motto here with Scytec is that your collected data is meaningful to your environment, and we display that with our charts and dashboards. And specifically what I'm going to be talking about is the RTV. And the RTV screens are endlessly configurable and contain multiple manufacturing charts. You go ahead and you develop these with the designer that I'm going to be kind of talking about here. And the charts are meant to be viewed on a screen out in the shop floor, and your RTV charts can be set to rotate at user-defined intervals, kind of like a stock Chiron for your shop floor performance. So what you're looking at that image over there is an RTV screen showing equipment statuses and their summaries. So I'm going to be going over a couple of kind of common RTV charts, just as for those of you that are new. So this is a common canned one that you can find pre-made inside of DataXchange, which is your RTV alarms, show alarm types, codes, descriptions, their duration, and Paretos. Another common RTV view that you can have as a dashboard is your RTV shop floor layout view. And this is commonly a top-down view of all the machines that you can find in your shop floor. You can upload any image into the RTV Designer for this. But what we're looking at here is a top-down view of a typical shop floor. And we have an Akuma machine there in the top middle, showing that Akuma machine is in a low override and how long it has been in that override. For about 46 minutes. Next to that, we have a Doosan machine that has been in an unknown downtime for about 6 minutes. And then all the machines that you can find under that, which include a Makino, a Mori, and a Star machine, have been cutting from anywhere from close to an hour and 40 minutes, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes. And as I said, for the shop floor layout view, you can have any image that you would like, but what is typical is a top-down kind of schematic view of your shop floor. And then finally, I showed this earlier in that image of the TV, but this is an equipment status summary. And this shows you all of the equipment statuses for a requested period of time. Historically, you would create your RTV charts in the RTV Designer, which was found in the Windows desktop client for DataXchange, and you would also access them there as well. Somewhat recently, your previously created RTV charts that were designed in the DataXchange desktop application now populate at the bottom of your Data Display Launchpad. So with this new update, the RTV Designer is now in Data Display. And you can access that by, where you would go for your management options, and also to access the Data Display Launchpad and log out, which you can see with that bright arrow there pointing to the RTV Designer, where you will then create these dashboards for your machine monitoring. This update, however, is being rolled out slowly over time to all DataXchange users. If you would like access to this new feature early and a demonstration where Scytec staff will walk you through the design process, please reach out to us at dxhelp@scytec.com. And you can also find a walkthrough of this process at Scytec University at dxhelp.scytec.com. But for those of you that have used DataXchange in the past and are familiar with this RTV designing process, you should be very familiar with how this all works, where you can see from the image there in the center, where you can create a new dashboard from the options that are over there from the image on the right, with different charts, including the timeline chart, the equipment status summary chart, and more. You can also copy that chart via a URL and share it with people. And then you can also schedule that RTV dashboard to be sent to some of your employees. As I mentioned earlier, the application downloads are also now available in Data Display, which you can access via the Manage tab. And in the Manage tab in Data Display, you can now download the desktop configuration applications, the mobile applications for both Data Display and ODI, as well as the Windows application for ODI. And thusly, as I said, when we add something to Data Display, it is then removed typically from the desktop application. But in this case, we also removed it from our main Scytec.com website, where typically you would have found the ability to download the desktop application from the Getting Data Exchange tab there. That has now been removed. And you can see that the Data Display login there is in its place. So with every Data Exchange release, there's always going to be some smaller additions as well. And I'm going to go over those here right now. We added display grouping options to the OEE summary chart. We added RTV auto settings as an option for the Data Display login landing page. There is also an option now to hide selected part numbers in the part number filters. We also added align bars left to options on the filter pages for bar charts, and this allows the setting to be saved for future use. And there is also now a new option to show weighted averages on the OEE per period report. So that about covers it for the November release that just came out earlier this month. The other very big release that we had came in at the very end of March, beginning of April. And I'm going to go over everything that was in that update as well. Starting first with Mazak being added as a direct protocol for data collection. So Data Exchange can now communicate directly with Mazak Smooth and other control types. And why is this direct protocol access a beneficial value add for machine monitoring? So when Data Exchange has the ability to directly access a name brand machine protocol, we can pull a way higher level or a more granular level of detail that some of our machine monitoring competitors cannot. And this should also be mentioned as well, is that we always had the ability to connect to Mazak controls and pull information off of them. But with this direct protocol access, we can pull, as I mentioned, a very granular level of detail that, for my own personal saying about, is that we go for far beyond is my machine running or not running, which some of our competitors are only able to tell you. So if you go over to our tech supported tab at our main Scytec.com website, you can click on some of the logos for some of these name brands, including Fanuc, Akuma, Heidenhain, Mitsubishi, and more. And you can see over there with that image on the right-hand side, a whole host of the different data items that we can collect from this direct protocol access. And as I said, this gives us a whole lot more information that we are able to pull off of Mazak Smooth Series controllers. One of the other additions from this end of March, beginning of April Data Exchange release is we now have a new real-time view with the equipment summation list. And the equipment summation list displays the total amount of status time for each selected machine, as well as totals for part counts and numerical custom variable values. The list can be viewed historically and can also be used as a real-time view. So if you see that image there in the center, this equipment summation list can be found with the other real-time views that we have, including the real-time list and the equipment view. And then below that image, you can see a screenshot of what this equipment summation list looks like and what it also reports on. As well, in this March release, we have added the new ability for a columns layout and grouping by function to the Data Display Launchpad. I'm going to be showing you guys some of this stuff here in just a second. We also added reports, save reports, and scheduled reports to Data Display, as well as saved exports and scheduled exports to Data Display. Reports and exports are now can be assigned to companies and saved and scheduled sections in the data display manage page, as well as in this March release, we also added user and company reporting group configurations to the data display manage page. And finally, for this March release, we had added more default user groups for new deployments. We added Launchpad filtering options to the data display manage page. And we also added dark mode to data display. And this will follow the active web browser setting that you have. So if you're using Chrome and you're using dark mode already on that, data display will follow that. So if you're using light mode, same thing as well, that data display will be in light mode. We also added a dynamic add new equipment checkbox to the data display real-time list and equipment view. So as I mentioned earlier, we have the ability to filter your data display launchpad by either format or by function. Right now we are looking at by function, which you can see at that arrow pointing to the grouping. You can see that the data display launchpad has now been filtered by different functions, including equipment status, utilization and downtime, parts and work orders, and OEE operations. And if you go over to that far box where it says filter that the arrow is pointing to, you could type in something like equipment status, and that'll then show you all of the different equipment status reports, charts, etc. As I mentioned, we have our saved export options for Excel exports, and then save reports, as well as save report options and scheduled report options. So if you're familiar with how our saved and scheduled report, or sorry, saved and scheduled charts works, it's very similar for the saved report as well, where you can save those reports so that they populate, so you don't have to keep doing all the filtering, and then you can have them scheduled to then be sent to different employment groups, as well as yourself, on recurring bases and at certain times. And as I mentioned earlier, we can also now filter the launchpad by what you would actually like to see. So if you go to the management tab inside of data display, you can select the different reports and charts that you want to see on your data display launchpad. And you can find this in the management tab inside of data display. So one of the other things that came out with this March release is we also now have a DataXchange update YouTube playlist. And this is going to show you all of the kind of things that came out inside of the release. So I'm going to show you one of these right now, and then you're going to be finding a lot more of these update videos for things that are user interface, UI heavy. So I'm just going to show you just a little bit of this. And as I said, you can find this on our YouTube channel as well. This will go over some of the stuff that transpires in a DataXchange update. As I said, we had a Mazak direct protocol access for the March update, and you can find all of the different controls that are supported, including the smooth lineup. So as I said, you can find all of these different update videos on the update playlist on our Scytec YouTube channel. Finally, for this webinar, I'm going to be going over some of the other updates that came out over this year. We also added direct sending of text messages using phone numbers rather than emails. And we had to do this because mobile phone carriers are phasing out the ability to send text messages through email. This has resulted in text messages taking longer to be received, or sometimes not being received at all. To address this, Scytec has implemented new text messaging capabilities with DataXchange that should result in more reliable text messaging. Existing configurations will need to be modified to send text using this new method. If you're having any problems with this, please reach out to our support channels at dxhelp.scytec.com. We also updated the process for connecting Microsoft Teams to DataXchange. In order to send Teams messages from DataXchange to a Microsoft Teams channel, a workflow webhook must be created. This links the team channel to your DataXchange account, allowing Teams messages to be sent. A tutorial for this can be found at dxhelp.scytec.com. And some of the other improvements, we improved performance for operation time reports and charts, general improvements to data exchange performance, improved target efficiency percentage values to correctly update OEE results, added direct support to TNC7 control types, added label orientation options to timeline and timeline per period charts, added a weekly period option to OEE per period report, optimized data storage and retrieval for improved performance, and also we now have additional support for some legacy Modbus TCP devices. So as always, for those of you that regularly tune into our webinars, I do like kind of pointing everybody to our Scytec YouTube channel, where you can find previously recorded webinars as well as feature videos, and then also, as I mentioned, the update playlist where you can see what has transpired in a data exchange release. And then, as I mentioned earlier, the dxhelp.scytec.com, Scytec University website, where you can find helpful tutorials and videos for all things data exchange related. And as I mentioned earlier, if you have any requested features that you would like to see, please reach out to us at dxhelp@scytec.com. And if you'd like to have early access to the RTV Designer, definitely reach out to this dxhelp@scytec.com support channel. And if you're having any issues with some of the other stuff that I talked about, such as the Microsoft Teams webhook or the updated text messaging process, please reach out to us at this dxhelp@scytec.com support channel. And that wraps it up for this morning's webinar. As I said, this is the final one this year. We will start these back regularly. If you're new to Data Exchange, we do host these on a somewhat monthly basis for some sort of machine monitoring related topic or industry related topic and how Data Exchange helps. So thank you all for joining us. I hope you have a wonderful holiday season, and we'll see you again next year.